Hello, welcome to this channel. Today we will learn about the chilling perils facing Leo Stark as November sweeps promise a deadly twist, where the nosy reporter's probe into E.J. DiMera's hidden clinic could lead to his brutal murder by the ruthless tycoon, sealing a tragic fate for the gossip hound who dared to uncover too much. Leo's regretful confession and Chad's dismissal. Leo Stark couldn't shake the unease gnawing at him after spilling his guts to Chad DiMera about the tense run-in with the enigmatic Rita Leslie and the swirling suspicions clouding his mind. In the dimly lit corridors of the spectators' offices, Leo had poured out his fears, detailing how Rita's icy glare seemed to pierce right through him during their unexpected clash near the hospital's restricted wings. He described the way her eyes narrowed, as if she already knew he was onto something sinister, a feeling that made his stylish loafers feel like lead weights. But Chad, ever the pragmatic editor with his own DiMera baggage, just chuckled it off, waving away the warnings like yesterday's headlines. "Leo, you're always chasing shadows," Chad said with a smirk, patting his shoulder dismissively while flipping through a stack of proofs for the next edition. Unbeknownst to Chad, however, Leo had accidentally wandered into EJ's ultra-secretive new laboratory tucked away behind the facade of the upcoming Dr. Tom Horton Free Clinic, stumbling upon blueprints and glowing vials that hinted at experiments far beyond legitimate medicine, perhaps bioweapons or mind-altering serums designed to control Salem's elite. This hidden chamber, disguised as a storage unit amid the hospital's bustling renovation, buzzed with high-tech equipment smuggled in under the cover of night, and Leo's brief glimpse left him convinced EJ was brewing something apocalyptic. As EJ and his unlikely ally Gwen Rizek von Leuskner plotted to push this shadowy scientific venture forward, the implications terrified Leo. The DiMera name had long been synonymous with chaos, from corporate takeovers to outright assassinations, and merging it with rogue genetics screamed impending disaster. Leo's gut instinct screamed that EJ was twisting this space into a hub for dark dealings, maybe even cloning tech to resurrect fallen foes or engineer unbreakable loyalties. Exposing it could cost him everything: his job, his relationships, and worst of all, his life, as EJ's history of silencing threats loomed large in Salem's bloody annals. In this web of deception, Leo's impulsive curiosity might just be his undoing, especially as November's chills bring whispers of a final, fatal confrontation. Gwen's suspicious overture rekindles old flames. The surprise visit from Gwen at the Spectator caught Leo completely off guard, her poised demeanor a stark contrast to the frosty exchanges they'd shared lately, all orchestrated by EJ's iron-fisted demands. Gwen had initially balked at the idea, protesting in EJ's lavish DiMera study that pretending to bury the hatchet with Leo was a fool's errand given their tangled history, but EJ's steely gaze and veiled threats about her own precarious position in the family empire forced her compliance. She sauntered into Leo's cluttered workspace with a forced smile, her designer heels clicking like a countdown to trouble, and dropped the bombshell by calling him Matty, that affectionate nickname from their wilder, pre-betrayal days when they schemed together over late-night cocktails and shared secrets about Dimitri. The sound of it melted Leo's defenses instantly. He beamed, his flamboyant scarf fluttering as he leaned in, hoping it signaled Gwen's forgiveness for his indiscretion with her husband, Dimitri von Leuskner DiMera, whose magnetic pull had shattered their friendship like fragile glass. In those heated moments months ago, Leo had surrendered to passion in a stolen weekend at a secluded cabin outside Salem, oblivious to the heartbreak it would unleash, and Gwen's lingering resentment had manifested in sharp barbs and avoided glances whenever their paths crossed in the town's gossip circles. Now, she extended an olive branch in the form of a lunch or dinner invitation, framing it as gratitude for Leo's heroic save during her recent scare at the clinic's construction site, where he'd pulled her from a collapsing scaffold amid the chaos of midnight deliveries. Yet, Leo couldn't ignore the red flags waving in his mind. Why the sudden thaw after days of her dodging him like the plague, muttering insults under her breath during chance encounters at Java Cafe or the town square? This Matty revival felt too scripted, too convenient, especially with EJ pulling strings from the shadows. Deep down, Leo pondered if he could pierce through Gwen's polished facade, sensing it masked a deeper agenda to lure him into complacency before EJ struck. As their conversation lingered over coffee-stained mugs, Gwen's eyes darted nervously, hinting at the pressure cooker of loyalty she juggled, and Leo wondered if accepting her invite might drag him straight into a trap designed to erase his prying eyes forever. EJ's desperate maneuvers, enlisting Kat and Stephanie for distraction. Behind the scenes, EJ dispatched Gwen as a calculated pawn to rein in Leo's meddling, but the ploy only fueled the reporter's paranoia, raising questions about how far EJ would go to protect his empire. In EJ's opulent mansion, maps of the clinic's layout sprawled across an antique oak table, marked with red XS over vulnerable access points, as he coached Gwen on her charm offensive, emphasizing the need to keep Leo's focus on personal reconciliation rather than professional digging. Meanwhile, EJ turned to Kat Green, the sharp-witted assistant whose loyalty he'd bought with promises of career advancement, tasking her with engineering a diversion by escorting Leo on a guided tour of the clinic's public areas, showcasing gleaming exam rooms and charitable outreach programs while steering clear of the concealed lab door disguised as a utility closet. Kat, with her sleek bob and no-nonsense attitude honed from years navigating corporate espionage, nodded grimly, knowing EJ's request this week involved more than hospitality. Official spoilers hinted at her recruiting unwitting allies to monitor Leo's every move, perhaps even planting false leads about routine pharmaceutical trials to throw him off scent. Show him the heart of the operation, Kat, the parts that scream benevolence, EJ instructed, his British accent laced with menace, and if he wanders, report back immediately. Stephanie Johnson, the hospital's poised PR representative with her clipboard always at the ready, became another cog in this machine, her role amplified by EJ's insistence on a united front to downplay the recent blackout that had exposed wiring flaws. Recalling the incident vividly, Stephanie had coordinated the press release blaming Salem's aging grid, but EJ's shadowy electrician, hired off books for the lab install, had actually triggered the surge with overloaded circuits from experimental machinery, a fact he twisted to potentially frame Mayor Paulina Price for neglect in maintaining the city's infrastructure. Stephanie's unease grew during strategy sessions in the hospital boardroom, where fluorescent lights buzzed like impending doom, as she realized EJ's threats to expose her own minor oversights could force her hand in misleading Leo. Yet, her moral compass flickered. Could she truly dissuade the relentless journalist, or would her half-hearted deflections only sharpen his suspicions? As EJ's web tightened, the clinic's grand opening loomed like a guillotine, with Leo's persistence threatening to unravel it all, potentially inviting lethal retaliation in the sweep's high-stakes drama. Kat's high-stakes game, diverting Leo from the shadows. Kat Green's assignment to shadow Leo carried the weight of double loyalties, as her covert ISA ties clashed with EJ's directives, turning every interaction into a tightrope walk over Salem's underbelly. Fresh from a briefing with Ray Fernandez in a dimly lit safehouse, where surveillance photos of the clinic's back entrance flickered on a laptop screen, Kat arrived at the hospital with a fabricated itinerary, luring Leo with tales of exclusive access to the facility's innovative therapy wings, complete with virtual reality setups for patient rehab that masked the real purpose of neural interface prototypes in the hidden lab. Her plan hinged on distraction, parading Leo past bustling nurses' stations and donation plaques while subtly blocking paths to restricted zones, perhaps even staging a minor emergency like a overflowing supply cart to redirect his gaze. If Leo probed too deeply, Kat's brief was clear: eavesdrop on his chats with staff, note any off-limits questions about the blackout's true cause, and feed EJ real-time updates via encrypted texts from her sleek phone. Yet, her alliance with Rafe added layers of intrigue. She couldn't afford Leo derailing their joint probe into EJ's acquisitions, which sources whispered involved black market tech from overseas labs, potentially weaponizing diseases or enhancing DMERA enforcers with superhuman traits. Stephanie's involvement amplified the tension, as the PR whiz fielded Leo's queries with rehearsed poise, citing budget cuts under Paulina's watch as the blackout culprit, all while EJ loomed in the background, ready to leverage dirt on her past ethical lapses to ensure silence. In one tense hallway standoff, Kat might whisper warnings to Leo about sticking to the tour, her eyes betraying flickers of genuine concern, knowing EJ's paranoia could escalate to violence if the reporter got too close. The clinic's sterile halls echoed with unspoken threats, from humming ventilators hiding lab exhausts to locked doors etched with fresh welds, and Kat's role as gatekeeper felt increasingly precarious. If she played her cards right, she could glean intel from Leo's banter, perhaps snippets about his Chad conversations, before bundling him out, but failure meant exposing her own duplicity, with November's arc hinting at a knife-edge moment where Leo's fate hangs by her discretion. The ominous November sweep, Leo's tragic demise at EJ's hands. As tension simmered toward November's explosive sweeps, Leo found himself trembling in his impeccably tailored suit, acutely aware that crossing the DiMera threshold had painted a target on his back, with EJ's gaze locking onto him like a predator sizing up prey. Whispers in Salem salons suggested Leo's unease stemmed from fragmented dreams of shadowy figures in lab coats, fueling his resolve to confide in Javi Hernandez during a hurried lunch at the pub, recounting Rita's ambush and Gwen's peculiar warmth as omens of foul play. Javi, ever the supportive partner with his detective instincts sharpening, listened intently, piecing together how Leo's tales to both him and Chad formed a breadcrumb trail that could alert authorities if disaster struck. If Gwen or Kat's distractions faltered, EJ's patience, already frayed by the lab's tight timelines for a breakthrough serum that could bend wills or erase memories, might snap, transforming Leo into the inaugural subject of a grotesque trial, strapped to a cold table amid beeping monitors and vials of iridescent fluid. Picture the scene. Leo lured back under false pretenses, only for EJ to reveal his hand in a soundproof chamber, the air thick with chemical tang, as henchmen like a revived Andre DiMera enforced the isolation. Long-term, Leo's survivor spirit might claw through, but sweep spoilers tease a harrowing vanishing act, perhaps a staged accident during a clinic tour, his body vanishing into the lab's incinerator, chalked up to a nosy reporter's misstep. Chad and Javi, connecting dots from Leo's frantic warnings, could ignite a manhunt, unearthing EJ's culpability in a whirlwind of accusations and raids. Yet, the tragedy underscores Salem's merciless code, meddlers pay dearly, and as November unfolds, Leo's bold exposé risks becoming his epitaph, a cautionary tale etched in the DiMera legacy's blood-soaked pages. We won't have long to wait for the fallout.